How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. A very impromptu podcast coming to you guys tonight, late on a Saturday night, early on a Sunday morning. There's some very big news coming about with the Chicago Bears and a new quarterback they're set to acquire. Carson Wentz is reportedly about to be on his way to Chicago. Natalie Engelnoff of NBC Sports Philadelphia says sources are telling her that the Bears deal for Wentz is, quote, close. Nick Foles is speculated to be included with another offensive player. The one that has been named is Tariq Cohen, as well as a first-round pick. We're going to be breaking this whole thing down for you guys tonight. Obviously, no trade yet confirmed, but we're feeling like we're going to be able to hear something within the next 24 hours on Super Bowl Sunday. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, to break this down with you guys, I am joined with my co-host to the right of me, Jaylen McClinton. Jaylen, how is it going, and what are your thoughts on this news?
It's going good. The Bulls got a W today. Obviously, it's the NFL awards, and then the Super Bowl is tomorrow. So it's a very good weekend, for sports for me. And then I saw this Carson Wentz trade news. It's been going on for the last couple of days, so definitely every time I check Twitter, I'm expected to see something about the Bears and Carson Wentz. But I know we're going to talk about this later, but other than that, I've been pretty good.
Yeah, let's first start off with talking a little bit about the trade that is presumably about to happen because we've seen that Philadelphia has asked for picks. 2 first-round picks earlier today came out is what they thought was going to be acceptable. Now, there was a trade rumor in the afternoon that the Bears were going to send a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a defensive player for Travis Fulgham, Carson Wentz, and a fourth-round pick. But now we're hearing a first-round pick, Tariq Cohen, and and Nick Foles in exchange for Carson Wentz. So I want to know your thoughts. If this trade does go through, which it seems like it's highly likely that it's going to happen at this point, what are your thoughts on what the Bears are giving up?
I don't like it at all. Now the Nick Foles thing, I'm happy we're giving up Nick Foles. Send him back to Philadelphia. I said this in the offseason. I know this is off track because we're talking about Carson Wentz, but I told Chris, Nick Foles is only good in Philadelphia. That showed through the season. He was terrible with us. He was terrible with Jacksonville. He barely played with other teams. The only place he's good at it is Philadelphia. I like Nick Foles as a person, but he's just not a good player outside of Philadelphia. And so happy to see if this is true. I'm pretty sure even if we do trade for Carson Wentz, no matter who we get or that Nick Foles is going to be involved in the deal. So I think that's pretty good. But giving up Tariq Cohen and the 20th pick, I don't like that. I definitely don't feel like Carson Wentz is worth a first round pick at all. Plus an all-pro type player in Tariq Cohen, who's a gadget player. He had a down season last season, and obviously he got paid this offseason before tearing his ACL, and you could see that Tariq Cohen was a huge part of our offense. He's basically our security blanket. He's our third down type of guy. Like he always gets the sticks, and even having that having a down year, he still proved that he's a very good player for us. So if we are trading him and a first round pick, I don't like it at all. I definitely feel like we gave up too much. But at the same time, people could say he's just a gadget player. He's not gonna. He's not gonna be the one of the main reasons why we're winning games. And I guess you could say that's true. And with the same thing with the 20th power pick, our biggest need as a quarterback, and most of I'm pretty sure the top 4 quarterbacks in Wilson, Lawrence, Fields, and maybe even Trey Lance are going to be going by 20. So, I don't like it, but if it's true, Pace is being very aggressive and trying to get a quarterback that can help us win now, especially because this could be potentially be him and Nagy's last year. So, he's doing anything and everything to make this roster competitive.
Yeah, and we've always seen Ryan Pace be aggressive in trades. Yeah. And at this point, it kind of shows me, not that Ryan Pace doesn't care, but Ryan Pace is kind of in an emergency mode, as you mentioned. He'll give up anything. He knows that if the season doesn't go well, him and Matt Nagy are going to be fired, and he needs to get someone in here. It's been reported that the Bears have been in on Wentz for a while, and they've been looking at everyone. I would say the only issue I have with this trade personally is that 20th overall pick. Yeah. I got to be honest with you, and you can roast me in the comments all you want. We've seen Tariq Cohen regress during his time in Chicago. We saw him have a good start to the 2020 year. But you know what? I think he's somewhat of a one-trick pony. If I'm being completely honest, defense has figured him out ever since his second year with Matt Nagy. And you know what? We did just extend him, but Philadelphia seems like they're going to be taking on that money as well as $33.8 million of Wentz's contract. So I also think it's nice to get Foles out. I think the Bears look to draft a quarterback, third or fourth round, someone to come in and I guess challenge Wentz a little bit and provide to be a solid backup. Maybe they sign a veteran to a veteran's minimum deal, but we'll see what ends up happening there because obviously Trubisky's set to be gone. And if this trade is true, Foles will also be heading out of town back to where he won the Super Bowl in 2017 with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Jaylen, I want to ask you, I mean, obviously, we did the quarterback carousel video just a couple of days ago. We talked about tons of different options, Carson Wentz definitely being one of them that could possibly come to Chicago. So I want to ask you, do you think Wentz will solve the Bears' problems at quarterback? We've seen him have some very successful years throughout his time in the National Football League. You could also argue that Philadelphia didn't give him much justice the last year and a half or so. But do you think Wentz can help solve the problems that the Bears have offensively?
To a certain extent, if we can get, that 2019, 2017 to 2019 type.
Anything 2017 through 2019, anything 2016 through 2019 Wentz.
Yeah, if we can get that wins back, definitely. He carried that team back in 2019, or that was technically last year. That team to the playoffs. That team was not that good at all. He was still in a bad NFC, still in a bad NFC division, and he was able to get them to the playoffs. I think he played all 16 games as well. And then obviously he got hurt, in that playoff game, which helped him out. So, if we can get that wins back, I definitely feel like that this team could be another playoff contender. Does he get us over that hump that we're continuing for the Super Bowl? Not if he doesn't return back to the MVP type wins before he tore his ACL. No. So, but if we can get a healthy Wentz that plays like his old self before this season, I definitely feel like he can win us some games. But it's a major if. He didn't play well at all last year. Turned over the ball multiple times, fumbles as well as interceptions. He just wasn't a good quarterback. He showed flashes, but flashes wasn't good enough. You have to be a consistent quarterback, and he knows that because he's played consistent as a very good quarterback. But I definitely feel like if we can get the old Wentz back, yes, he can win us some games. But if we get that Wentz from last year, and plus we're giving up one of our Bears, our most, I wouldn't say most consistent because Tariq was inconsistent as well, especially for the last year, but a player that we really relied on in our offense and a 20 overall draft pick who knows who will be there. Players, rise and fall every time on the draft boards, but then it would definitely be worth it. But like I said, that's all an if. It's a high risk, it's a low risk, but it's a high risk, but you know what I'm trying to say, like high risk, low reward, something like that. But
Yeah, and Wentz in 2019 passed for over 4,000 yards, something a Bears quarterback has never done. His average passer rating throughout his career is 89.2, which would be 9 points better than the best a Bears quarterback has ever posted on average, and that came this year from Mitchell Trubisky with an 80.2. Throughout his career, he's had 16,811 passing yards, 113 touchdowns, and 50 interceptions, 15 of those coming solely from this year where he was a quarterback who I think led the league in turnovers, also was sacked the most. So you know what? The Bears are going to have to put Wentz in a good situation if they want him to succeed. We saw his play falter this year when his wide receivers went down. He was playing with practice squad receivers throughout the most of the year, as well as their first-round pick, Jalen Reagor. So the Bears are going to have to be able to put a good offensive line around him. I think that second-round pick now absolutely has to be used on an offensive tackle because you definitely can still find a starter in the second round. I think there's going to be a lot of players that are moved on from Bobby Massey, Charles Leno, maybe, as well as guys on defense, Buster Screen, Jimmy Graham, another one. And I will say if the Bears do get Wentz, an interesting name to keep an eye on is Zach Ertz for sure. Because it seems like Philadelphia will be looking to release or move on from him because they've had a stall in their contract negotiations. But you know what? To answer the question, I'm going a little bit off track. I think if they can put the right pieces around him, they can be playoff contenders. The question is, Can he be good enough to win in the playoffs? The issue with him is we've seen him have some really good regular seasons, but haven't really seen him do it in the playoffs. Once again, Ryan Pace taking quite the gamble here, and we'll see how this one pays off. But I definitely think if you can get Wentz a good offensive line, you can get him some time to throw and put the right wide receivers around him, he can definitely be successful. Jaylen, I want to ask one more thing before we close this one off, because obviously when this news officially does break, which you would assume would happen sometime in the next week, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I want to talk about Allen Robinson's situation for a minute, because this has been a highly asked question, and it's going to be very important when it comes to Wentz's success, obviously, if he ends up in Chicago. Let me say, he hasn't ended up in Chicago yet, but it seems like 99% chance it's going to happen. I'm sure this video.
Please don't say that. Please don't say 99%.
Well, I'm sure this video will be archived if he doesn't end up in Chicago. But I want to ask you about Allen Robinson. Carson Wentz is probably the best quarterback that Allen Robinson will have gotten a chance to play with. Obviously, Robinson's going to have a very fluid situation when it comes to free agency. He's going to have the opportunity to go a ton of great places and really get a lot of money. The Bears have an opportunity to put a transition tag on him, to possibly extend him, to franchise tag him, or to tag and trade him. So I want to ask you, if the Bears do bring Wentz to Chicago, which seems quite likely at this point, what do you think happens with Allen Robinson?
You tag him, especially if you can't come close to a deal. You tag him. If we're going to bring Wentz here, we can't expect. I'm pretty sure even if A-Rob does leave, we sign somebody in free agency or definitely draft a wide receiver with our second round pick if we do give up our first or one of our picks. You can find a receiver in any round. We saw that with Darnell Mooney. So, but we definitely need to tag Allen Robinson. No way we let him go, especially after giving up an offensive weapon like Tariq, giving up the 20 overall draft pick. We need to put some talent around him. When he had an MVP type season, he had Alshon Jeffrey, who was having a very good season. He had Nelson Aguilar, who wasn't very good up to that moment, had 700 yards. Ertz was a Pro Bowler, Plus they had Giagiai and other running backs who were
and a great offensive line.
And they had an amazing
offensive line. Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey. So
if we want to see that Wentz, which like I said, I doubt happens because of how good he was in the 12 games he played. We need to have weapons around him. We seen last season he didn't play well because he didn't have any weapons. Alshon Jeffrey was injured. Ertz was injured. Dallas got injured during the point of the season. The offensive line was regressing because Lane Johnson was hurt. Kelsey is almost, he's getting up there in age, so you can't expect him to play like an all-pro center, every single year at this point. You need to have talent around him if you want him to succeed. We've seen, Pace do it before in 2018 when he brought in all this offensive talent from Mitchell Trubisky, when he brought in Allen Robinson, of course, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton. We boosted up the offensive line a little bit, drafting James Daniels and stuff like that. And we've seen, Mitchell have a very solid season, lead us to a 12-4 record. So I think we definitely need to do the same thing with Wentz, especially if Nagy and Pace want to keep their jobs. Definitely be aggressive and try to tag Allen Robinson and get a deal done with him, or like you said, maybe put a transition tag on him. But if we do that, I'm pretty sure some team is going to overpay for him. Give him $20 million plus because of his talent. So, but definitely we need to find a way to keep Allen Robinson. No doubt about that. Like you said, this would be the best quarterback he's ever played with, and that's saying something because Wentz is not looked at as a good quarterback right now.
Yeah, I got to go ahead and agree with you. The Bears are going to have to do all they can to put as much talent around Wentz as possible. It's pretty simple. If the Bears want him to succeed, they need a good offensive line, they need good wide receivers. That's got to be the entirety of your focus this offseason. The fact that if this trade goes down, the Bears aren't giving up any defensive players, which they might still, but this is obviously the first bombshell when it comes to it. The fact that they aren't giving up many defensive players, I think their defense will be just fine if they can keep a lot of the players around and cut who they need to cut. You have to be able to bring back Robinson, in my opinion. I think that means you put the franchise tag on him and focus the rest of your draft picks and possible cap space from cutting other players into maybe signing Zach Ertz. Maybe he'd want to come play with Wentz. His wife is also in Chicago, so that's an interesting one as well if Jimmy Graham is gone. But you have to put money into the offensive line. That's just how it's got to go. So you have to be able to put talent around Wentz, that being an offensive line, a tight end who can play. We've seen how influential Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz have been in Philadelphia, and you definitely have to put an offensive line around Wentz. That's undoubtable as well. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this impromptu podcast.
Hold on, what channel is it?
Huh?
No, my fault, Zach. I mean, Chris. Getting
so used to Zach being on here, but thank you guys so much for tuning into the impromptu episode of the Bear Down podcast, talking a little bit about these Carson Wentz negotiations that are heading late into Saturday night. We should have some more news soon, I would assume, whether that be Wentz going elsewhere or Wentz landing in Chicago. I'm sure something will break very soon, and we're going to be discussing it as well as the rest of the moves that need to happen this offseason if Wentz ends up in Chicago. If you want more content from us, head over to our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs. Definitely going to be talking a lot about Carson Wentz if he lands in Chicago, reasons why you should believe in him, what the Bears could do in the offseason to be able to obviously make him successful once again. And yeah, so if you want to find us on social media, head over to @BearDown on Instagram and Twitter. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages down in the description. Me and Jaylen's Instagram and Twitters. You could see our thoughts on the entirety of the NFL, as well as Carson Wentz and everything that's going on in professional sports nowadays. Jaylen McClinton seems like within the next 72 hours or so, we'll be hearing that Carson Wentz will be a Chicago Bear. Might be disappointing to some Bears fans. But any last words before we close this one off? And do you think people should give Wentz a chance before they start talking on his name?
Oh, so I guess it's not breaking news because it's social media, but I don't know if you can see it.
I cannot see it.
But it's Tariq Cohen's Instagram, and he deleted all his Bears posts. So maybe this rumor is true. Maybe Tariq Cohen is becoming an Eagle. That's sad for me to say because he's a locker room guy. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be sad to see Tariq go. He's just a nice personality, but if this is true, I'm pretty sure when the trade actually goes down and it's confirmed, and we actually see if we give him Nick Foles number 20 and Tariq, like Chris said, we'll make another video and give more thoughts about it, and talk about how this team, how this team will look with Carson Wentz at quarterback. But until that time comes, bear down. That's about it. I was actually able to get my Instagram back. My Instagram got hacked, so I'm turning that into like my Jaylen McClinton bear down, stuff. I'm gonna post it on a little bit more. But other than that, bear down and stay safe.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of more news coming in soon. And Tariq Cohen deleting his post probably means he's been informed that something is happening, in my opinion. So we'll see more updates soon. And I'm sure we'll definitely make a video specifically about Cohen, whether or not it was a good idea to give him up if this does go down. But guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malpe. Thank you guys so much for the support. Hopefully we can get through this, and hopefully the Bears will be better off with Carson Wentz if he ends up in Chicago. But as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you guys, I'm sure, very soon with more news in regards to Carson Wentz, and that's pretty much it for us. See you guys soon.